often asked on more than one occasion whether it's talking about mainstream media, incompetence, or corruption. I am beyond, especially in the context of MSNBC, and believing that this is just incompetence. I am full bore into this camp that the appalling treatment that Sanders has received on MSNBC has more to do with them being in the camp for Warren as opposed to Sanders, and not liking Sanders all that much. I've given loads of examples of this, whether it's from Ed Schultz, Krista Ball, Jake Uger, all of them, different race, different genders. I know Schultz and Uger. Same results. Their perspective, from the standpoint of the stories that they give, if those stories goes out of line with what the network wants, gets curtailed. There is management exerting a certain degree of, influence on the talking heads that is looking into the camera. Meaning, you don't see management. You don't see the billionaire behind the scenes paying that millionaire. All you see is the pleasant talking head giving you some narrative that he wants you to believe. In this particular case, the heinous, the appalling behavior is specific to Sanders. They were never said, but it is true. Another case where the question is asked, okay, is this just rank incompetence, or is there an agenda afoot? I'm in a camp to believe that there's an agenda afoot. The extraordinarily well-paid hosts of MSNBC, unable to read the polls that they are showing on the screen. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you like this content, dig this content, you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like this video, only if you like this video. But if you do like it, please give us a like. Also, subscribe, especially if you find yourself coming back to this channel often. I do videos all the time, so definitely hit the notification bell. Also, on Sundays, my wife and I, when she's available, have a patron appreciation or contributor appreciation episode. That episode is more engagement in regards to with the audience. I engage with the audience all the time, but those videos goes like 2 hours, so it gives a little bit more leeway in regards to interacting. MSNBC. I am going to create a playlist of the failings, the failures, the outright incompetence or outright bias associated with MSNBC in the direction of being against Sanders. I've argued on more than one occasion that Elizabeth Warren is their choice. That is the candidate that they want. That's the person who they're pushing, despite breathlessly telling you that they are non-biased. Non-biased. They don't consider Sanders a Democrat. And beyond not considering him a Democrat, he is a tick to the left than what that network wants. They don't like him. They like Clinton. They don't like Sanders. Another flagrant foul by MSNBC. Listen to this. So MSDNC is, I don't know who this guy is, but he tends to show these videos when these guys are being flagrant. And so I am going to go to the video that he put out, and I give him a heads up, he or she, for doing great work and showing this and nailing this. MSNBC, they aired this. You see the label at the bottom, but he added that. But this is MSNBC. This is their airwaves. Not being monkeyed around with. This is what they said.
They have struggled to do so far. A recent Pew survey shows Sanders and Warren struggling to win over African Americans, while Joe Biden continues to hold a commanding lead in that demographic. Meanwhile, a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows voters with an increasingly negative view of Biden, Warren, and Sanders, with 40% of those surveyed seeing Sanders negatively.
Just so we're clear. She just said, oh, wait, let me play that. Roll back tape.
Poll shows voters with an increasingly negative view of Biden, Warren, and Sanders, with 40% of those surveyed seeing Sanders negatively.
40% of those surveyed seeing Sanders negatively. 40% of those surveyed, right here, down here, is seeing Sanders negatively. She said 40% of those surveyed is seeing Sanders negatively. I don't want to blow this up. Hold on. What is she talking about? What is she talking about? If this happened once, I'd call it a little mistake. This doesn't happen once. This happens over and over and over and over again. Either the $20 million host is incompetent or they are lying to you. In January, with the poll that is showing on their own screen, in January, Joe Biden, 54% positive. Now, 34% positive. That is a prolific drop of 20 points. That is a prolific drop. 20 points. From January to now, Joe Biden has lost 20 points in the positive. His negatives have gone up. Again, what is that? 16 points? So his positive have gone down 20 points. His negatives have gone up 16 points. Elizabeth Warren, her positives have gone down 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 6 points, 7 points. Her negatives have gone up 10. She is at 40 negative, not Sanders. Repeat, Warren's negatives have gone up 10 to 40, not Sanders. Her positives have gone down by 6, from 44 to 37. Sanders' positives have gone up 1. His negatives have only gone up, 28, 29, 30, 31, 4. His negatives have gone up 4. To repeat, Joe Biden's negatives have gone up 16. Elizabeth Warren's negatives have gone up 10. Sanders' negatives have gone up 4. Only 4. His positive has gone up 1. Now, anybody who's in an election, their negatives goes up. It just is what it is. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she had like 60, 70% approval rating. The moment that she starts running, that thing goes up, spikes to the highest ever. Same thing happens in the political space. When these guys start to run for office, when they are kind of just out there and people just know them, this kind of, it just this, I want to say ephemeral, I think that's the right word. This kind of just out there way. Then people, it's like, all right, yeah, that person is okay, no big deal. The moment that person starts to run for office and people are like, okay, that person is going to be put into a position where the public is watching them, their negatives go up. The catch here is Sanders' negatives have only gone up 4. And I'm saying that in comparison to Warren's, who's gone up 10, and Biden's, who's gone up 16. Let me roll this back. I want you to hear what she's saying.
ABC News Wall Street Journal poll shows voters with an increasingly negative view of Biden. Warren and Sanders, with 40% of those surveyed seeing Sanders negatively.
Is it incompetence or is it on purpose? Which one is it? Is it incompetence or is it on purpose? I'll leave that to you to answer. And I will also create a playlist of all the failings, fuck-ups, previous things where, oh, it makes my skin crawl, that type of stuff. Oh, he's anti-woman, missing the fact that women of color is one of his major base points. MSNBC. I'm not gonna hold it. I just want to put these out there. So when people are saying, "Oh, we don't know where Bernie Sanders is getting this thing that these guys are biased from," I want to be able to have a playlist for people to be able to run through. Let alone the Brian Williams thing, who still has his job. And every day that Brian Williams has his job on MSNBC is another day that it gets across to you how much they care about what is going on that airwaves. The idea, this is not Brian Williams flipping pancakes. If Brian Williams is a flagrant liar when he's flipping pancakes, I don't care. If Brian Williams is driving a truck from Richmond to California and he's a flagrant habitual liar, I don't care, because those things aren't necessary for driving a truck. You can lie to the day is through driving that truck. I don't care. Is my wife getting the item that she wants from Amazon? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, do I care if the driver is a habitual liar? No, I don't. Not one iota. I don't have to interact with the driver. I don't care. If he is a habitual liar and his job is literally to report news, then that is a direct conflict. It's like saying, do I want the guy that's blind driving the truck to California and back? No, I don't, because that directly interacts with the job that he is supposed to do. Brian Williams is a flagrant habitual liar. That's not my perspective. That's not my point of view. That's not, my opinion. That is a flat fact. He's been caught over and over and over and over again doing so. How does he still have a job? And the fact that he's still working on MSNBC, again, gets across how much they care about what they have on their airwaves. I would even go so far as to say Brian Williams has a job because he's a habitual liar. I'll end it here. I don't want this video to be long. I point out appalling behavior by MSNBC. And it gets to the point where it's not incompetence. There's a certain nefarious intent behind it. And that nefarious intent is hitting Sanders in the knees while pushing the candidate who they want. The corporate choice, Warren. Warren will take a ton of money. Warren will not unilaterally disarm when she's getting out of the primaries. And again, I asked the very basic question that nobody asks. Nobody's answered. Or she's never answered. Senator Warren, yes. If you're saying that you're not going to take money in the primaries, and I agree with that, fair enough. Yeah. Thank you for the heads up. Yeah, and look, we notice. And I want to give you credit for that. Because not taking big money, all incentives in the world are for an individual to take big money. And you decide in the primaries that you're not going to do it. So, but if you're not doing it in the primaries, and I understand your reasoning for it, why are you doing it in the general? I understand this notion that you're not going to quote unquote unilaterally disarm. I like the messaging. I like the way you say it. And you've said it twice on Chris Hayes and eventually to Uyghur after he pulled you back onto the show to get you to talk about it. The first time around you didn't own up to it. And he never asked. So there's that. But why the primaries but not the general? The unilaterally disarm thing is somewhat of a dodge. I understand that you don't want to unilaterally disarm, but that doesn't really get to this question of why are you not accepting big money in the primary, but are in the general? Why do you want to unilaterally disarm in the primary if you're going to use that particular, colloquial language? Why? The reason why I ask this, Senator Warren, is because it comes across as if you're doing this in a primary because you don't believe you can get elected if you're taking big money in the primary. And you want to stand beside Bernie Sanders and say, I, like Sanders, am not taking big money. So, hey, there's that. We're even on this kill. But you're not even on this kill. Because once you get out the primary, you will take that big money. If your argument is that take big money has an influence on the political actor, which is the reason why supposedly Sanders doesn't take it, and supposedly the reason that you're saying that you're not taking it. But you're not unilaterally, quote unquote, disarming once you get out of the primaries. Why is it that the general election rule set is different than the primary rule set? If your reasoning for not taking big money in the primary is because it has an outsized influence, then why are you doing it in the general? The reason why I asked this, Senator Warren, is because it looks as if that you're doing this only in the primary just for you to get through the primary. You're doing this because you know that the public has a certain perspective of this. And if you're standing beside Sanders, who's not doing that, then you look worse. And not just you look worse. There's a certain degree of corruption to it. It is a political choice to do this in the primary but not do this in the general. And you are making a political choice, not because it digs at you, but a political choice. I don't want to be able to stand beside Sanders because Sanders has a better perspective of this in the primaries. And I know that voters in this primary, lefties, don't like this. And it's one of those things that plagued Clinton in the last primary. And I don't want my opponent to be able to point out that I am taking big money and he is not. So in the primary, I'm not going to do it. When I get to the general election, however, all bets are off. And at that point, all of my opponents have been vanquished. And you are back at the position of, yes, I'm taking big money, but you have nowhere else to go. You're either going to vote in Trump or you're going to vote in me. Yes, I'm taking big money, but you have nowhere else to go. I'm sorry, this goes back to the overt political acting. Why didn't you support Sanders? Well, I mean, it was a great primary. No. Why didn't you support Sanders? She doesn't want to answer that. The reality of it is she had already signed her life over to Clinton. But she couldn't say that. I guess I'm making a point that in one choice after the next, Elizabeth Warren makes political choices. Political choices. Not choices because they dig at her, but political choices. There's a difference in those things. And this not taking money in the primary thing is another example of it. I'm sorry. People ask, hey, why don't you support Warren? Because I don't trust her. And it's stuff like this that makes me and inform my opinion of not trusting her. MSNBC, on more than one occasion, has said Warren is the person who the corporate class likes. Because at the end of the day, she can do they can do business with her. She will accept corporate cash. And not just accept corporate cash. She calls herself a capitalist. Sanders is less spongy in this way. And because he's less spongy, they dislike him. MSNBC warns negatives of 40. Not Sanders. Not Sanders. I end this here. Like, share, subscribe. And let me make sure there's no weirdness. All right. Like, share, subscribe. I didn't want this one to be long, and I'll see you guys momentarily. Thanks all.